Hello and welcome back to Skypothesis. We are two brothers who are on a quest to keep the magic of Skyrim alive by providing you with unique builds that explore the game's hidden mechanics. While mods can provide fun and customized experiences, we find more satisfaction in creating builds that utilize the vanilla and anniversary editions of the game. Everyone loves a good punch cat, but what about a punch cat who can block and disarm opponents with an unenchanted staff? This Khajiit is a powerful, unarmed vampire who does not need to use any crafting skills to reach full power. Unarmed with the ability to block made this the best and most versatile unarmed build we've made to date, and we hope you enjoy it as much as we have, so let's jump right into it with the Tainted Claw's backstory. There are 4 schools of Khajiiti martial arts known as claw dances: Desert Rain, Desert Wind, Goutfang, and Whispering Claw. While the claw dances are traditionally Khajiiti, the practice of these martial arts has spread throughout the continent, and practitioners are found among all races. The not yet Tainted Claw was an apprentice to a master monk, who left elsewhere to establish a new school of the Whispering Claw in the Imperial City. This monk believed it his duty to spread the practice to all who would learn, and that it inspires confidence and a healthy life even among those who never have cause to use it for violence. The young apprentice respected his master and traveled to Cyrodiil with him, but many of the other adepts and Khajiiti lore keepers disagreed with the monk's ideals. Whispering Claw was not the school to introduce to foreigners. It was too dangerous and harnessed a killing instinct unique to Khajiit. All claw dances teach meditation through motion, but Whispering Claw is the most purpose-driven dance. And that purpose is to deliver death efficiently without restraint or wasted movement. The old monk believed there was more to be found with Whispering Claw and branched off from the roots of the school, creating a new version that uses a simple staff to help balance the deadly strikes with defense. The result was a graceful blend of lethality and self-preservation. He proceeded to open his school in the Imperial City, offering his knowledge to any who would learn. The Imperial garrison captain must have been an eccentric, or at least desperate to try something new, because the first group of students for this school were almost entirely legionnaire recruits. The apprentice was uncomfortable with this and often discussed the controversy at length with his master. The Whispering Claw Adeptorium in the shifting sands of Elsewhere had already disavowed them, and now their first students were the enemies of the Thalmor, who control Elsewhere. The monk sighed and confessed that this was all part of his plan. He could no longer sit by and watch the Thalmor dominate his homeland with lies and deceit. The pair argued, and the apprentice felt betrayed. "I followed you to seek mastery, not to be embroiled in politics. We should be above the squabbles of men and elves." Distracted by their argument, they were not prepared for the werewolf that burst through the front door. The beast sprinted across the training room in an instant and slashed the monk's neck open. The apprentice was tossed across the room with a powerful backhand swipe. As swiftly as he arrived, the werewolf turned and disappeared into the night. The apprentice raced to his master's side, but it was too late. He had died on the spot. In a blind fury, he gave chase, but the werewolf was significantly faster and had disappeared across the bridge and into the northern forests. He spent days tracking the footfalls of the werewolf, which took him over the passes above Bruma and into Skyrim, where he walked right into the Imperial ambush. Here is where your roleplay as the Tainted Claw begins, on the prison cart, contemplating the events of the past few weeks. Instead of grief, he harbors feelings of betrayal against his master. The foolish old monk allied with the Imperials abused the study of the claw dance, and both of them will pay with their lives. But this ironic twist of fate wasn't meant to be. A dragon attacks and the Tainted Claw is set free. As he breathes the cold air of Skyrim, he takes in the land around him for the first time. He is impressed by its rugged beauty and thinks to himself, this one will now seek mastery on his own. No more adepts or foolish allegiances. Skyrim shall be the perfect land to sharpen this one's claws. He abandons his chase of the werewolf, but ponders who could have hired him. The Thalmor were the likely culprit, not wanting advanced fighting techniques to be introduced into the Legion, but he lets it go. What's done is done, and now he must focus on his own journey. The Tainted Claw is a disciplined yet ruthless martial artist whose philosophy revolves around unrelenting self-improvement and the pursuit of absolute mastery over his own potential. He is a neutral evil character who is unbound by any loyalty to gods, ideals, or relationships, save when it aligns with his own goals. In social interactions, the Tainted Claw is aloof, speaking only when necessary, often treating others as tools or obstacles. Every decision he makes serves his ultimate goal, to unlock his full potential by pushing his abilities as far as they will go. Even if it means learning the forbidden, stepping on others to get there, taking on the most dangerous beings of Tamriel and beyond. How else can he measure his personal growth unless he seeks more and more challenging foes? Skyrim is really a power fantasy, so why not lean into it with the roleplay? The Tainted Claw prioritizes the main quest to acquire Dragonrend, as he lacks ranged options to deal with dragons outside of Vampire Lord form. Dragons represent the ultimate apex predators, and their resurgence sparks an insatiable desire within him to subjugate these mighty beings. He views the Greybeards with disapproval, seeing their pacifism as a betrayal of their power, while the Blade's pragmatic approach aligns more closely with his own ambitions. Throughout his journey, the Tainted Claw grows naturally into his role as Dragonborn, not as a savior but as a conqueror. Prioritizing the main quest gives you an organic introduction into the Thieves Guild and the College of Winterhold. His disdain for the Thalmor, who meddle with forces they do not understand, drives him to sabotage their influence whenever possible, believing their arrogance parallels his former master's failures. His involvement with the college is less about camaraderie and more about harnessing magical knowledge to enhance his martial techniques. Putting Ankano in his place is immensely satisfying, as Ankano was expecting to face a mage, not a deadly martial artist. Vampires intrigue him, and he joins the Dawn Guard initially to learn more as his knowledge is lacking. Witnessing their power firsthand makes the decision to become one easy. He sees it as an evolution, not an affliction. The ultimate tool to extend his training indefinitely and unlock powers that mortal life could never grant him. The thirst for blood and disdain for the sun is a small price to pay for increased strength and heightened senses that sharpen his unarmed combat skills. The Necromage perk creates for some busted unarmed damage, which we will go over in detail later in the video, and this is one of his primary purposes in becoming a vampire. As a vampire, the Tainted Claw embraces the solitude of night, hunting silently and honing his craft in darkness. Each bite, each battle, and each dark ritual deepens his resolve to rise above mortality's limitations. After joining the Dark Brotherhood, he finally meets the werewolf who killed his former master. He harbors no ill will and even respects his speed and strength. He joins forces with this crew as it serves as the perfect proving ground for the Tainted Claw's philosophy. As a shadowy organization of assassins, it mirrors his own ethos of silent precision and ruthless efficiency. While the Brotherhood revels in their work, the Tainted Claw approaches his contracts with calculation, using them as opportunities to test his skill as an assassin. The higher the risk, the more satisfying the contract. Over time, he views the Brotherhood as another tool, useful for honing his skills and maintaining his anonymity, but disposable when it ceases to serve its purpose. His eventual rise within the organization is inevitable, as his mastery of the Whispering Claw makes him an unparalleled instrument of death, and the obvious choice to fill the role of listener. Upon arriving at Bloodchill Manor after accepting a mysterious dinner invitation, he senses the darkness that permeates the gathering. As the macabre feast is revealed, he participates in the bloodbath with his unarmed strikes, turning the dinner party into a scene of carnage. By the end of the night, he claims the manor as his own. Bloodchill Manor becomes more than just a home, it is a throne for the Tainted Claw to rule from, a perfect den for a pale cat hidden deep in the mountains where no mortal can challenge his growing dominance. The back room fills with trophies from his victories, each one telling a story of a foe he conquered, new strength he discovered, and lessons learned. Role-playing as a Khajiit in the Nordic land of Skyrim is always interesting. To quote Jazargo, Skyrim could not be more different from elsewhere. Here, Khajiit are as far removed from their homeland as possible, but Khajiit souls are saved by Kynarthi, their version of Kinnereth. Skyrim could be a place where Khajiits are closest to the god who welcomes them into the afterlife. But as a vampire, he likely would not be able to feel Kynarthi's call, though on the throat of the world, where the veil is thinnest, perhaps a small whisper makes it through. It was the Nordic aspect of this same god, Kyn, who taught mortals to use the Thuum so they would have a weapon against Alduin and the ancient dragons. Perhaps one day, when there are no foes left to prove himself against, and you are done with your playthrough, he may heed her call to be a true Khajiit once again and cure his vampirism, but we'll leave the choice up to you. Now let's go over gameplay specifics. He is a vampire, that means he has access to an array of unique abilities like calming people so you can feed on them. Since he is a melee warrior, sometimes the damage from the sun makes fighting fire-breathing dragons dangerous, so he has no qualms feeding on thralls when needed. Vampire Lord form can be fun for the roleplay, for floating over water, and quick terrain traversal. At his core, he's a pretty simple build. He is an unarmed fighter with the ability to block, enhanced with the perks Quick Reflexes, Deadly Bash, and Disarming Bash to add more versatility. Unarmed characters always end up feeling a bit samey to us, which is why we always try to find other gameplay elements to pair it with. The Desert Wind Exile combines Unarmed with Whirlwind Cloak, Cyclone, and Slow Time, and the Saxhleel Vagabond combines Unarmed with Explosive Crossbow Bolts, roleplayed as bombs. Something just felt right about combining Unarmed with an unenchanted staff for a martial artist, and the simple ability to block and disarm during combat makes the playstyle feel fresh again. Unfortunately, the animations in the vanilla game aren't great. They just use the basic claw slash each time, so enjoying this build requires a certain amount of commitment and a willingness to suspend your disbelief. There's a huge gap between the martial arts on display and the martial arts in the roleplay, but at least the unarmed kill cams are cool. Speaking of, you unfortunately cannot trigger the kill cams while wielding a staff. So if you want to see your character in action, you've got to unequip the staff before killing the last enemy. Totally worth it to see your character pulling off some insane takedowns. Whispering Claw practitioners are described as skilled acrobats, so we use the Klimek Supplies glitch to represent his ability to scale walls and reach high places. Once you've returned to Klimek for your reward, head back to High Hrothgar and snag the bag of supplies from the offering chest. Jumping and dropping this bag from your inventory allows you to climb vertically, though it does take some practice to get the timing right. It's fun to use this perch on top of buildings and survey the activity of a city. Slipping into Dragon's Reach from the upper balcony was a fun roleplay moment during the Thieves Guild quest Imitation Amnesty. We love builds that are functional without grinding any skills, and this might be the quickest any of our builds come together after starting a new game. Khajiit's built-in unarmed damage is useful by itself in the early game, and is scaled up with a specific combination of perks and enchanted gear, culminating in a total of 87 damage per strike. You start with a base unarmed damage of 22, which includes 10 base damage and the Khajiit racial bonus of 12. The Ring of the Beast typically adds 20 unarmed damage, but with the Necromage perk amplifying enchantments on the vampire characters by 25%, this increases to 25 damage. This brings the total to 47. Next, the Fists of Steel perk adds the base armor rating of equipped heavy gauntlets to unarmed damage. For the Tainted Claw, this means an additional 15 damage from the Fists of Randagulf's armor rating, raising the total to 62. Finally, the Fists of Randagulf's enchantment, which normally provides 20 unarmed damage, is also boosted by Necromage to 25, bringing the grand total to 87 damage, making the Tainted Claw a lethal unarmed combatant all without any self-enchanted gear. Now let's go over spells and shouts. He studies magic at the college, focusing on healing spells from restoration and defensive flesh spells from alteration. Paralysis is also used, but at point blank to roleplay a chi-blocking melee strike with an open palm. The spell selection is simple and chosen to just add defense and healing to his simple gameplay of blocking, bashing, and slashing with his claws. His preferred shouts are Slow Time, Marked for Death, Whirlwind Sprint, and Aura Whisper. Now let's discuss creating the character. A free unenchanted staff can be acquired immediately by taking the carriage from Whiterun to Morthal, unlocking the Wizard Tower Mirrorwatch, and picking it up next to the Staff Enchanter. And just like that, you can have the build functionally put together right out of the gate. Eventually, we'll buy an unenchanted steel staff from Neloth for the aesthetic, but they all do the same thing for this build. For his armor, we are wearing a blend of pieces we call Plate of the Tainted Monk. The head slot we left open, since vampire cats look awesome and we wanted him visible. He is plenty strong and defensive without wearing anything on his head. The Vigil Corrupted armor and Vigil Corrupted boots can be obtained at the end of the Creation Club quest Unholy Vigil, though you will have to craft the variant with a red sash. His gauntlets are the Fists of Randagulf, which are critical to the build. You get these at the end of the Creation Club quest Caught in a Web. For auxiliary gear, he wears a necklace of Resist Fire, which are commonly sold at Radiant Raiment, and a super powerful Ring of the Beast, which adds 20 unarmed damage and fortifies health by a whopping 100 points. For stats, we leveled with an even ratio between health, stamina, and magicka. We are using the Lady Stone for health and stamina regeneration, which lets vampires function better in the daylight, but for the sake of stealth, you may want to consider using the Steed Stone instead, at least until you get the perk conditioning on the heavy armor tree. For the race, the preferred choice is Khajiit for the roleplay and the highest base unarmed damage. It just wouldn't be the same if it wasn't a punch cat. By the time you reach level 40, you will want the following perks. In heavy armor, take all 5 in Juggernaut, Fists of Steel, Cushioned, and Conditioning. Even though we're an agile Whispering Claw, we want to level this tree and get conditioning to remove armor weight for stealth, so let yourself take hits that you know you'll survive to get more XP. In Restoration, take the Novice through Adept perks, Regeneration, Respite, both in Recovery, and Necromage. Another reason to let yourself take hits. You'll have more opportunity to level this skill. Cast Turn Undead whenever you can as well, as Restoration levels slowly unless you go out of your way to grind it. In Block, take all 5 in Shield Wall, Quick Reflexes, Power Bash, Deadly Bash, and Disarming Bash. In Alteration, take the Novice through Expert perks, all 3 in Magic Resistance and Stability. In Sneak, put 2 in Stealth, Muffled Movement, and Light Foot. Beyond level 40, you can keep going up the left side of this tree, but this character doesn't rely on stealth for damage or survivability, so it was really only used when he needed it for a quest. Also, vampires have a built-in boost to stealth and an invisibility greater power, Embrace of Shadows. Finally, we do need to take the Steelsmithing perk to make the Corrupted Vigil armor with the red sash. Unfortunately, you cannot get this version of the armor unless you self-craft it. One nice thing about unarmed builds is the flexibility you have with perk points. Most builds spec into an offensive spell or weapon skill tree, but unarmed builds have the damage built in. This build has no enchanting either, which allowed us to allocate even more perks and defensive skills like Block, Heavy Armor, Alteration, and Restoration. All of these layered together to make for one exceptionally tanky cat. Some additional perks and abilities to seek out are Force Without Effort for improved staggering and resistance to being staggered, Seeker of Sorcery to reduce magicka cost of spells by 10%, Nightingale's Strife to absorb 100 points of health from an enemy once per day, and Bardic Knowledge to summon a spectral drum to regenerate stamina. Alright, moving on to our favorite part of every build, the special moves. The Tainted Claw's first special move is called Paralyzing Palm, which is the paralysis spell but cast at a point-blank range. He learned how to perform this chi-blocking strike while sparring with an exile of the Desert Wind School. For the roleplay, never use paralysis as a ranged spell, get up close and use it as an unarmed strike. Up next is Sanguimancy, which is the combination of Equilibrium, Nightingale Strife, and Vampiric Drain. If he ever finds himself in need of magicka, he can use Sanguimancy, or blood magic, to draw magicka from his own blood, then harvest the blood of another using Nightingale Strife to instantly absorb 100 points of health. If needed, Vampiric Drain can be used as well to absorb even more. We like to imagine these things all fusing together in one sinister move. He learned the practice of Sanguimancy from a fellow Volkihar vampire, an Argonian master of blood magic. The next move is one unique to Khajiit that we call Prowler. This is done by shouting Aura Whisper and using the Khajiit ability Night Eye. This is honestly more for roleplay, but we found that Night Eye actually enhances the effect of Aura Whisper by muting the colors of everything except for living targets. His final special move is Claw Dance, which is the combination of Spectral Drum, Slow Time, and Disarming Bash. This meditative motion of the Claw Dance allows him to weave seamlessly through the battlefield, landing disarming strikes with the rhythm of the Spectral Drum. And with those special moves completed, we are ready to wrap up the Tainted Claw. We think this was the most fun we've had with an unarmed character in Skyrim, and if you decide to give it a try, we hope you enjoy it as well. Stop by our growing Discord server to let us know how it goes. Thank you so much for supporting us by watching our videos. If you'd like to support us further, check out our merch shop and cop some sweet antler helmet swag in the process. We have embroidered hats now per popular demand, dad caps, snapbacks, and beanies. We still have many more builds planned, and we'll continue to release one on the first Friday of every month this year. So if you like what we do, be sure to like and subscribe to keep the magic of Skyrim alive. We'll see you next time, right here on Skypothesis.